Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about I got myself back. Well, some people see a success story as getting their ex back, but while that may be true, we don't have such a limiting belief about it. You know, we're all about having you guys improve your mental health, your attachment styles, becoming more confident, learning to be a better partner, learning to choose better partners, and genuinely find healthier, happier relationships. And, you know, we know the obsession of focusing on the ex and just trying to get that person back, because I've been there, you know, and so it's hard to take yourself out of that position and get to a point where you focus on just turning yourself around, getting yourself to a good place, and feeling good about yourself.
Right. And I just want to piggyback off of what you said there in the beginning, that not every success story is going to be getting your ex back. In fact, in many situations, getting your ex back is not the best thing for you. When you do have time and space to reflect back on what the relationship was, how you were treated, you do gain perspective and you see things in a different light. You begin to be a little bit more self-protective in a healthy way. And that to us is growth. That to us is success. So today I want to be talking about a success story that was sent in by one of my clients who has worked really hard, who has processed a lot, thought about his breakup a lot, which I know I'm sure that many of you are doing as well. So he wanted to share his experience with everybody to be able to, you know, keep pushing forward and to motivate others who might be in a similar boat or experiencing something similar.
He's done quite a few calls with you so far.
Yeah. And he's worked really hard, is what I can tell you. And sometimes part of our healing is also sharing our story, being really vulnerable with others. Once we get to that really secure place, it's much easier to talk about what we've been through. So he starts off by saying, "Hey coach, my name is Armando." That's not his name, I made that up. I'm not as creative with names as Craig is, but I tried to be.
I come up with like the silliest names that I can think of sometimes.
You do.
Wasn't there like a father-son combo recently? What I call them, Noodles and Doodles or something like that?
So silly. So he says, "My name is Armando and I have a success story for you all. I met my ex online summer of 2020. Her name is Megan." That's not her name. Anyway, we met on Xbox and we would spend some time hanging out, getting to know each other, and then we started dating in late January 2021. The first 5 or 6 months were amazing, as is common for new relationships. However, this was our first long-distance relationship. She'd never been in one prior, and neither had I, so there were some differences and difficulties, as you would expect. The first one being the distance. She was in a different country, and I was here in the States. One of her biggest complaints was that I did not come to visit her.
That's a pretty reasonable complaint, right?
Right. But you have to keep in mind, he says here, our relationship was during a time where the borders between our countries were closed. She always wanted me to visit. She did not like the idea of meeting halfway or visiting me.
Well, that doesn't seem very fair.
Correct.
Right? I mean, okay, I can understand you're upset if I don't come to see you, but you could do the trip too, or we could meet in the middle. No, if you don't come to see me, doesn't count.
Right, and I think just that off the bat, from the very start, is really symbolic of how the relationship continues to play out.
Yeah, it seems pretty selfish to me.
So he says, during our relationship, she had met another guy locally. She called me one day asking if she could go over to have him help her with chores because she was feeling overwhelmed, since I wasn't there to help her with the housework. I reluctantly agreed, but she assured me that he knew that she was in a committed relationship with me and respected that. Yes. Yes.
It's feeling kind of suspect already.
Right.
Sure, let me come over and help you do housework.
Right. And it's a little bit guilt-provoking there with her saying that he wasn't there to help.
You're not here to help me, so somebody's got to come over
and it makes
and
me
make
think,
my bed.
Yeah, right. I was thinking, who was there doing the chores beforehand, you know? And it's okay if the dishes go, like, not done for a day or two. I don't know.
It just sounds very suspect so far.
Right. Later that evening, when I talked to Megan, she told me that he had made a move on her and they kissed.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. He's like, you're going to pay me for this vacuuming, right?
But you can see here, even the way she framed it by saying the other person had made a move on her.
Yeah, I was innocent.
Yeah, it's avoiding
I had no
responsibility.
idea.
Right?
No idea he was going to do this.
Right.
I thought he just wanted to come over and do housekeeping for nothing.
Not saying that it doesn't happen, but it seemed like she was avoiding taking on that responsibility to say, hey, I had a part to play in this, too.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that doesn't happen.
He says, I was really upset and hurt, but didn't blame her entirely because I blamed myself for agreeing to them spending time together in the first place.
I mean, how are you going to stop it? You know? If somebody says, you know what I mean? Like, no, you can't do that. I mean, I might say, well, I'm uncomfortable with that, or this doesn't seem reasonable. How would you like it if I did that? But, you know, people are free to make their own decisions. In this case, a terrible one.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking with him too, we worked through this idea, you know, him blaming himself for allowing it. We, you know, kind of had to work through reframing that no, you didn't allow the kiss to happen. You didn't allow the cheating to happen.
Yeah.
You had just agreed to him coming over to help her with chores.
Yeah.
You know, so the responsibility there was still hers to maintain that boundary.
I agree.
Yeah.
And there has to be a reasonable amount of trust, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and he acted in good faith. A few months later, we were hanging out with mutual friends again over Xbox. I felt uneasy about the way that they were talking to each other, so I brought it to her attention, and she assured me that I had nothing to worry about. She was committed to me, and he was just a friend. They're always just a friend. And that she would never want to hurt me like she did that night she kissed that neighbor.
Let's call him Lenny.
You're so great. Lenny. As time went on, the relationship grew stale, and she complained more and more about little things. She became colder towards me, became more distant, and that triggered my anxious attachment. So I would try to fix the situation, which just ultimately made it worse in late 2021. We were talking, she said she felt out of love, and she was done. And just for some context, after having worked with him for quite some time now, we've pretty much pinpointed that he was the caretaker in his family. So thinking about family dynamics, family systems, when one person has so much pressure from other family members to make sure that everyone's happy, everyone's okay. Sometimes this can be an older sibling that's taking care of younger siblings, but it can look different from family to family. This role can echo into your adult relationships. You find yourself taking care of those who are in need or who are often in a lot of crisis. So you might find yourself in a similar situation and relate to that.
But it's very suspicious so far, because she's spending time with the guy who's coming over to help clean. She's complaining that he doesn't go to see her, and she's investing more time with this guy. And then obviously the way they're talking to each other on Xbox was so uncomfortable that he addressed it. So it's not looking good, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't know the situation, but it doesn't feel... Already, I'm like...
That's a blind react for Craig.
I've done this long enough.
Okay, so then he says, she broke up with me, and then the next day she was in a new relationship with that friend I didn't need to worry about.
The next day.
The next day.
It just happened. They just magically decided to be with each other the next day. More like she broke up with you and was already with that guy, and then she tells you the next day.
Right. And we say this to open your eyes a little bit. You know, sometimes exes will say, oh, you know, I got into a relationship with this person, you know, a week later, and I promise it didn't happen beforehand. Or they might try to convince you that they weren't talking beforehand. Most of the times, relationships don't just start like that.
He was doing more than the dishes. The laundry, too, I meant.
That was a different guy, though. That was the guy that...
Oh, it's a different guy?
A different guy.
This is a different guy?
Yes.
Wait, but it said that friend.
Yeah, the friend from the Xbox conversation. That was different from the laundry and dishes guy.
I thought it meant it was that guy.
No, different guy.
Oh my gosh. Can't keep track of all these guys.
It's a lot. For a couple of weeks, I tried to get her back. I would send her paragraphs messages apologizing for things I did that angered her, made promises that I would do better and asked her, begged her to stay. Of course, that didn't work. She had had enough of my begging and pleading. A few weeks later, I found her channel and watched hours upon hours of content, started going to a therapist, spent a lot of time reflecting on the relationship, and realized that I deserved better. I realized my worth. It took me a long time to get to that point. The grieving process was a long one, with an emotional roller coaster that was exhausting. The questioning myself, the constant worrying of never finding anyone as good as her, the sleepless nights, the lack of motivation to eat, exercise, work, spend time with loved ones. I felt like half my heart was missing.
Yep.
I was devastated for the first few months, but it does get better. He says, I was heartbroken, she left me in pieces, and it's strange, but now that I look back, I'm grateful to her for forcing me to pick myself back up and proving to myself just how strong I am. So yeah, I did not get my ex back, but I got myself back. You know, for the first few months, I was completely devastated because I thought I lost her. It took me a while to realize she lost me, but realizing that has really helped my healing. Mm-hmm. So you can see a drastic change from the beginning of this relationship where he is blaming himself, giving her the benefit of the doubt to a fault, always making excuses for her behavior, even when she wasn't making any, to where he is now, where he's defending himself, where, you know, his ears are a little bit more perked up. He's more aware of the dynamics of what's going on. Mm-hmm. He's more aware of how people can be really deceptive, really manipulative. Yeah. And a lot of this also reflects into healing a lot of those childhood wounds too. You know, of always being in this position where you are a caretaker, you're expected to take on other people's issues. And when you're growing up in a family that depends on you, you care for them indiscriminately. No matter what's going on in the situation, in their lives, no matter how they treat you, which is sometimes not very well. And so that can reflect in adult relationships where people aren't treating you right and you still feel the need to take care of them. Yep. So through all of this processing, through all of this work and self-reflection and hours of watching videos and through therapy, he's gotten to a place where he says, you know what, I am deserving of somebody who can reciprocate what I bring to the table, somebody who can give back the love that I show, and somebody who can care for me as much as I care for them, and somebody who can treat me right. So for that, I'm really proud of him. He goes on to say, healing is difficult as hell. It's not pretty. The emotional roller coaster is exhausting. There were days I was convinced, and he puts in bold, convinced that the only way for me to be whole again was to get her back. After some time, you come to realize that it's far more important to know your self-worth than relying on someone else for it. So
very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. And it can really leave you feeling like, if without this person, I'm never going to be happy again. Mm-hmm. You know, you could feel like that in a breakup, you know, and it could feel like that for long periods of time. But you have to really look at yourself, at your, you know, family history, at your attachment issues, and realize how much of it is about you versus how much is about them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what's amazing about this story and talking with him now is that his plans for the future are amazing. There's lots of travel ahead for him. Mm-hmm. There's lots of really novel experiences, exciting things that I know are just going to propel him forward. So I'm really excited for him in this situation. And I know many of you are in similar boats where you are devastated. You might be in that stage where it's hard to eat or focus or get yourself together even for just one day. But it does get better. And once you hear that phrase or something clicks in you where you realize, wait a minute, you know, what have I been doing this whole time? You know, I need to take care of me. I need to eat. I need to sleep. I need to move forward and see some hope for the future. Then, you know, it does change. It does get easier.
That's right. And you feel like you got yourself back. Mm-hmm. So you may not get your ex back, but it doesn't mean you can't get yourself back or get it yourself to be a place where you've never been before, healthier than you've ever been before. And you really can use a breakup to change your life. Absolutely, I believe that. But it takes work. And the ones that stay the most motivated are the ones that are going to grow the most and feel the best in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So hopefully this has been helpful to you and inspiring for you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here if you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.